What's going on, guys? We are back for NA Regional 2. We're going to do some predictions. I think we'll probably only have this video for our predictions throughout. So I think we'll just do the upper bracket predictions, and then we'll say some lower team makes it, and then we'll do our grand finals predictions, make it a little bit easier on you guys. But first, we'll talk about how these teams got here and all of that. So, NA Regional 2, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday is the last event before the holiday break. That is for RLCSX. They're still beyond the summit and all that stuff. And a couple grids here or there sprinkled around. So, let's get into it. So we'll look at the top side of the bracket here. NRG, the number 1 seed. They didn't win Regional 1. They came in second, but because they've won both grids so far, NRG is clearly the number 1 seed. 642 total points. That's well beyond Team Envy, who's at 501. So Energy, they get the nod for the number 1 seed. Then we move down the list. Let's talk about the 8 teams and why they're here and why this looks lopsided, possibly. So, like as you can see, we had a top 4 in the fall split for the majority of it. We have Energy, Space Station, G2, and Envy. And Energy, Space Station, and G2 are all on the same side of the bracket. Now, there's a couple reasons why that is. Well, Space Station and G2 actually tied for points at 290. Now, that's Space Station, not as good of a regional performance, but better grid performances. While G2, a better regional performance and less good in the grid. So Space Station has looked good in the grid, but they obviously got bounced out before day 4 in Regional 1. That's why they got jumped down to the 4th seed. G2, the 5th seed, because the first tiebreaker is just RLCS X points in total in terms of the fall. So this is also just winter points is how you get seeded. Winter RLCS X and grid just equal points. So G2, they get the 5th seed because of that. G2 as well just has not found that form to kind of like get back into that top 4 just yet. Now, we'll look at the other seeds. Now, the reason why that is lopsided on that side, the Peeps also are up there with the 8th seed. So they tied with E United and the Sonics at 170, but Peeps get it because they have more fall points. So that's why Peeps are 8th seed. And that's why they have the bye there. That's why E United does not. They're the 9th seed. Because if you go down the list, E United and Sonics are the same. But the last time that they didn't finish in the same spot, it's basically the highest placement they've had in a while. It would have been Season 1, Regional 3. E United tied for 5th, and the Sonics did not. They finished tied for 17th, so pretty far down there. So that's why E United got it over the Sonics. Not a huge deal, 8, 9, 10 seed. Like 8 seed matters. After that, 9, 10, whatever. So let's look at the bottom side. Team Envy, the 2 seed, coming in 501 points. They get Ghost Gaming, who's looking pretty good, 180 points total. Just barely beaten out Peeps, E United, and the Sonics. So it was incredibly close. So Ghost Gaming, 7th seed, but again, by only 10 points. And most of those points, actually pretty much all of them, are from the winter of RLCS where they did so well. So that's why Ghost is up there. Rogue is obviously up there as well. They have 310 points. 250 of that come from the grid, I guess. No, winter RLCS points. No, 250 from RLCS, and then grid points are added in there as well. So they have a little bit extra. But again, they had such a good showing. They're tied for 3rd finish. That's why they're 3rd seed. So that's why they're up there on this side of the bracket. And the Pittsburgh Knights, the 6th seed, 250 points, 40 below G2 and Space Station. A lot of that coming from that first regional. Grid performances have not been that great for Pittsburgh Knights. Same with Rogue. Rogue's been okay, but nothing crazy. So there you have it. So that's your top 8 seeds. Now let's talk about the other teams that are kind of important. Or not really important, but Zero Issue. One of those teams. Kronovi coming in on that squad, playing with Falls and Brisky for this one. So Kronovi, they qualified. Zero Issue is here. Let's see how they do. Some other teams, Loco still around. There is the 72 Pin Connector Boys, Jamal Jabbery, a bunch of these guys. Charlotte Phoenix is back. They missed out on the last one. Exet and Soul here once again. They played last time, I believe, in this same exact round. And Kansas City Pioneers, they have also qualified. So let's start going through these predictions, all right? First, I'm going to start on the bottom side. Envy and Rogue. I'm going to try and speed these up a little bit. I don't want to sit here too long. I think Envy is probably the most consistent team, the highest floor team we have in the RLCS on the NA side. And I think Energy and Space Station would have been in that conversation if they didn't get those big losses in Regional 1. So I think it's like there's still a chance that they are kind of up there. But Envy does a very good job of finishing top 4 in literally every tournament. That is RLCS X. So Team Envy, I think, will come out of this side of the bracket and make grand finals. If they face a hot Rogue, it's possible. But I just don't see it. I think everyone else outside of that, probably not going to happen. Like, I think Ghost Gaming will come back down to earth a little bit. Pittsburgh Knights probably comes back down to earth a little bit as well. But I think Pittsburgh Knights has a better shot at making a run. I'm actually going to look. I think we have another tab here. Let's see, for the grid. So week 1, just want to go look at this here real quick for Pittsburgh Knights. So they finished 2-1, beat version 1 and Board of Shadowy Figures, which I don't know if, did they make it, Board of Shadowy Figures? I don't think they did make it, which is actually pretty surprising. Looks like they didn't make it. So that's one of the big upsets out of that. And then I think they just keep losing early in the bracket. Yeah, so they lost to Kansas City Pioneers here. So they lost in a round where they shouldn't have, facing a 3-seed versus 2-seed. And Kansas City Pioneers has been struggling lately. Like, obviously, they finished 2-1 here. Personally, I'm not a big fan of group stage going head-to-head and then game differential. Normally, it doesn't matter. But I just don't like that it's not consistent across, all RLCS style tournaments. I'm just not a huge fan of that. But it didn't matter here. Game differential would have cost them anyway. So Kansas City Pioneers fall down. Kansas City Pioneers have not been looking good lately, so it happens. It's hard to stay at the top. Pittsburgh Knights 2-1, and then they go out early, and then we'll look at week 2. I believe they had a very good run this time. Yeah, 3-0. Beat Ghost, beat Alpine, and then beat G2. A very solid run, and then I think again they got bounced early, by the Peeps, who were the 4th seed. So it's just the way it is. But that's a really good result overall. In general, like I said, they were middling, but it's not that bad. In one of the grids, they go 2-2, and in this grid, they go 3-1. I wouldn't worry too much about the bracket versus group stage. Like, I know probably players don't care as much about the group stage, but still, it's still nice to go 3-0. And Alpine not looking good here. That's something that you got to be concerned about for sure for Alpine. And Alpine, I believe, didn't really do much here. They played Space Station and got bounced. Let's go over to the grid rankings. I think I have a tab for that, but I should have just left it alone. Oh, I guess I don't have a tab for that. So let's look at the grid rankings here real quick, just to kind of show where these guys are, because we already know what happened in the regional. That doesn't really matter as much. But let's go and take a look at the grid rankings here. So Alpine sitting at 10 points. That means they have 1 win in group stage, and that is it. Ghost Gaming, only 2 wins in group stage, so 1 and 2 in both group stages. And then we got Jamal down there, version 1 down there as well. So version 1, even though they were hot in the regional, not looking as good. The 20 points could be a 2-1. It could also be a first playoff win. I can't remember exactly which one it was. I think, actually, it might be a 30-point gap. I can't remember. I think it was a 2-1 group. It was a hectic week 2 of grid where a lot of the bigger names or the ones that did well in groups got upset. Like even Charlotte Phoenix made a run. Which is not something you see a lot. So they got 30 points for that. So, going back, let's go back over this regional. Now, again, things can get hectic here because of grid week 2 and how we saw a lot of teams get upset. It's grid, so sometimes you have to kind of be concerned about that, where it doesn't matter as much for some of these teams, maybe the bigger name teams. You would still like to see them play for $15,000. Like, you would. So if I was a fan of a team, I would want the team that I'm rooting for to try their best to win $15K, personally. But hey, you do you. So we'll keep moving on. So I think Team Envy, they will advance all the way to the grand finals here. I don't think Rogue is going to contest them. I think Rogue will probably slip up a little bit. It is generally a weaker side, but right now I only really think there's Team Envy, Space Station, and Energy that can contest for a title. Obviously, that's not going to be the case when, like, a weird upset happens, and then who knows what happens. Like, that's what we had last time. Energy and Space Station, the number 1 and number 2 seed, fell down. I don't think it's going to happen this time. I think Energy will win. Space Station, they might have to get Alpine, and if Alpine starts trending back up, it's possible that they could take Space Station, but I don't think it happens. And then version 1 and Charlotte Phoenix, they go on to play G2. I could see G2 losing this game. I feel like G2, it's been a little rocky. They haven't been that clutch really throughout this whole season. It's possible that there's an upset here. Like, again, version 1 makes a run. It's very hard to consider upsets here, though. Last time, I believe E United was in the same group as the Peeps, and I was like, I don't really like either of these teams. And then I said, I'm going to stick with the Peeps just because they're getting E United, and that backfired. E United won that match last time. I think we'll just say the same thing. I think E United makes it through and will play Energy, and then Energy wins that up to the winner semifinal. On this side, I think this one's tough. I feel like it'll probably be Space Station G2. I'll just go with the upset with E United Peeps. I think Space Station, it was a wake-up call for them. I think G2 is still good enough to take down version 1, but you never know. Version 1 could have another big upset potential. But I think Space Station versus G2 here, and I think Space Station wins that pretty handily. Then we'll get the Energy Space Station, where Space Station generally is more favorable matchup, but not lately. I think I would go Energy here, so Energy versus Envy. Not too surprising, but hey, what are you going to do? One thing I want to see out of Loco, because Loco is in that points race, and they haven't really done a whole lot with that. They always kind of consistently perform mediocrely, if that makes sense. That keeps them in the race, which is good, and they don't have any bomb out. So who knows? Maybe versus Team Envy, where Team Envy, they lost in a round 1 of the grid playoffs before. It's possible Loco could surprise them there. Zero Issue, I think, has a chance for Sonics, but Sonics have been playing some pretty good ball. I think probably the Sonics move out of this, and we'll play Team Envy here. And then I think Rogue will take down Xset, if that is the case, or Soul, if Soul makes a run. But I think Rogue, pretty sure, did Xset play Rogue as well? I feel like a lot of these are matching up a lot. But I think Rogue will get that win there. Pittsburgh Knights and Kansas City Pioneers, I feel like that match happens all the time. I really do feel like Regional 1 and Regional 2 are the same thing in these first 3 rounds of who plays who. So version 1 played Space Station. Yeah, Rogue and Xset. Not the Sonics, but United Peeps is the same. Alpine and Loco was not the same. Obviously Alpine lost a lot of their seeding because of being really poor in the grid. If they were doing better in the grid, they would have a much better seed, but they've done nothing. And this is what happens. You lose your seed, and now you got to work your way back up. And then, yeah, Pittsburgh Knights and Kansas City Pioneers, a lot of potential rematches in that round 2. Honestly, I could see Pittsburgh Knights taking it again. I feel like Kansas City Pioneers has not been that good lately. And Pittsburgh Knights have been pretty hot. I think Pittsburgh Knights will probably win that match, and they will move on to play Rogue. I think here's where it's I'm going to ride the hot hand. It's whoever is playing hot on day 1, I think I would take on day 3. It is a 2-day gap, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult to predict that. But I think I'll go Pittsburgh Knights here, and they'll take down Rogue, and that'll be a little bit of a surprise. I think Rogue, obviously, they overperformed a little bit, making it to 3rd place last time. I think they come back down to earth just slightly. But obviously, Pittsburgh Knights, they also overperformed. So we'll see how this all plays out. I think Pittsburgh Knights might have a chance for another run here, and then Team Envy takes them down, and Envy versus Energy here. Now on the lower bracket side, I feel like Space Station has a chance to come up and play Envy and take down Envy. I think Energy is probably the best team in NA right now still, even though they lost that series. And I think I would give it to Space Station to make that run, which wouldn't be a very long run, back up and play Energy for the final, and then Energy wins it. Could see a reverse sweep thing or whatever, a bracket reset, but we'll see. But that's what I'm going to go with. So that would be Energy first, which is not a huge surprise. Space Station second, Envy third. Then honestly, I think G2 has a potential to make a run. It depends on their bracket. I think G2 could come in 4th. I think that's very plausible. Rogue a 5th maybe or something like that, unless they play each other. I'm not sure how that all works. And then Pittsburgh Knights maybe 6th, 5th, 6th area, somewhere around there. But that's how I think it'll all play out. I think it's going to be a very entertaining day tomorrow for NA. A lot of potential rematches. We'll see if any of these lower-end teams can cause any upsets. Last time around, there really wasn't any in round 1, if I am not mistaken. Let me go back over here. I'm pretty sure there was none besides version 1, which version 1 doesn't really count because, they were matched up right next to each other. So 16, 17. So we'll see if any of these lower-end teams can make those runs. We didn't really see it here either. Loco obviously did their small little run that they always do. But let's look at the points and where they're at right now. Because I think that's, relatively important. Then we'll call this video. So for the full ranking, now obviously So we don't know how many teams make the winter major. We'll talk about that like in a second of like what teams need to do to at least be in that conversation. But right now, for most points overall, Team Envy's in first, Energy and Space Station right behind them. They have a really big lead, and I think that's going to continue. Like I think they will finish top 3 in some form or some fashion. And the G2 really comes down to can they clutch it out, and they really have not been able to yet. And will they find that form? It seems like it's been slipping just a little bit. Same with Kansas City Pioneers, been slipping. Peeps, been slipping. Alpine, been slipping. Rogue, maybe a little bit higher nowadays. And then, like, some of these middle ground teams, United, Pittsburgh Knights making runs, the Sonics making runs. So we'll see how that all plays out. See, like, Loco was a consistent, like, 9th, 12th, and then didn't even make day 3 here. So they're just consistently always finishing, like, on the cusp, but not really doing a whole lot. So we'll see. Maybe Loco can do something. Maybe Exit has some pop-off potential. Ghost Gaming had a good run. It feels like a lot of these lower-end teams starting to creep up, and I think this pack is going to condense a little bit right here. Right here, that pack is getting tight. Like, if that continues and we go into the winter rankings, and if some of those teams don't make the major, that would be very, very problematic. So right now, it's only been 1, so we'll see how it all goes. But you got teams like Kansas City Pioneers, Space Station at 9th right now. If they have another bad run, who knows what happens? Who knows how many teams make majors? So we'll see. But the Peeps down here in 13th, that's not a good spot. They basically need a good run here because they're tied with a bunch of teams there as well. So we'll see what happens. Some new teams coming in. Zero Issue, Charlotte Phoenix, Nefarious lost their points because they made a roster move. Sup and Vibrance, but a lot of these teams have been here before. It's going to be interesting. Rogue, obviously, great first showing. You know, very likely that'll put them into a winter major, depending on how many teams there are. Pittsburgh Knights, same thing. As long as they don't completely bomb out and get like a last place finish, I think they'll be okay. So that kind of takes away 2 spots from maybe some potential teams that were expecting it. Ghost Gaming even, same thing. Like they had a good run. So if they can continue that, you never know. Even Alpine in version 1, like Alpine's not looking good, but Regional 1, they did their job and at least did enough. So if they can do that again, I think they'll be okay. So we'll see. Again, who knows how many teams it'll be. I don't even know right now because I don't know what's happening for Winter Major yet. They haven't told us, so who knows. But that's where we sit right now for the season, for the entire season, and for that. Top 6 right now, it's a tight race, 20 points between Rogue and Peeps. And that's a 250 to 70, 180-point difference last time around. So that is a big gap. And look at this. Peeps lost ground on the next 4 teams, and they tied the 5th team. Then the 6th team is better. Then the 7th, they tied 8th. There's 8 teams here that have either tied or done better than Peeps last tournament that are right up there in points. So it's going to get really tight. Kansas City Pioneers can't say too much better either. And G2 Esports, they even lost ground to some of these teams. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's going to be exciting. Definitely check it out. Rlcs, twitch.tv/Rocket League for the NA action this weekend. Last tournament before the holiday break. Hope to see you there. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.